Hello dear children, welcome back. Let's do a short revision of Chapter 1 in History by knowing the short summary, by understanding bulletin points, and by discussing some question answers of Chapter 1, that is French Revolution. French Revolution was a period of radical social and political upheaval in France and European history. The absolute monarchy that had ruled France for centuries collapsed in 3 years. French society underwent an epic transformation as feudal aristocrats and religious privileges evaporated under a sustained assault from liberal political groups and the masses on the streets. Old ideas about hierarchy and tradition scrambled to the new Enlightenment principle of citizenship and inalienable rights. As we have studied, that French Revolution began in 1789 with the convocation of States General in May. The first year of revolution witnessed members of the Third Estate proclaiming the Tennis Court Oath in June, the assault on the Bastille in July, the passage of Declaration of Rights of Men and of the Citizen in August, and an epic march on Versailles that forced the royal court back to Paris in October. The next few years were dominated by the tensions between various liberal assemblies and conservative monarchy intent on major reforms. A republic was proclaimed in September 1792, and finally, King Louis XVI was executed the next year. External threat also played a dominant role in the development of revolution. The French Revolutionary Wars started in 1792 and ultimately featured spectacular French victories that facilitated the conquest of the Italian peninsula, the Low Countries, and the most territories west of the Rhine, achievement that had defined previous French government for the centuries. Internally, popular sentiments radicalized the revolution significantly, culminating in the brutal Reign of Terror from 1793 until 1794. After the fall of Robespierre and the Jacobins, the Directory assumed control of the France state in 1795 and held power until 1799, when it was replaced by the Consulate under Napoleon Bonaparte. Have a look upon Bastille now and then. July 1788, French farmers, peasants do not have enough to eat and are paying high taxes. Nobles out of touch from that, and people cannot afford food. Peasants getting a bit rowdy. Louis XVI started assembling troops at Versailles. People fear he is planning to attack the new National Assembly and arrest the members. People in Paris hear about the troops. They begin to riot. So 14 July 1788, the attack in the Bastille took place. Fortress in the prison in Paris, seen as a symbol of king's power, and people stormed the prison, freed the prisoners, take guns and weapons. 1788, King Louis XVI need cash, and this happened because of the French bankrupt. And the reason behind all these was the fighting of British during 7 Years' War, French along with Indian War, support of the American during the American Revolution, and upkeep on the Palace of Versailles. All these led to a great economic crisis. Let us see the Third Estate response upon the meeting. May 1788, the representatives meet on an indoor tennis court and pledged that they would not leave until the king agrees their demand. And the tennis court oath was like a big sit-in. Do you know, it would be the embarrassing situation for the king, and why? Because king might finally agree with their decision, or maybe the establishment of the National Assembly may took place. Let us see what was the demand for change by the Third Estate. Third Estate wanted to change voting procedure. They want to establish a National Assembly where each representative has right to vote. Let us see the procedure of casting vote during State General Assembly. the first state has 300 members and their vote is counted as 1. Second state has also 300 members and their vote also is being counted as 1. Whereas third state has 600 members and they too have counted as 1 vote. How do you feel about this if you were also in the third state member, and why? Finally, the Declaration of the Rights of Men were announced and National Assembly vote to eliminate all the classes, title and nobility. Say, nobles and clergy must pay taxes too. Serve as basis for the French Constitution, the idea of liberty, equality and fraternity. How can we forget about the Reign of Terror, the time period when guillotine was introduced by Robespierre, and it was the time when everyone, the member of even Jacobin Club, were in the scared and they were being harshly punished due to the disobedience of any of the policy of Robespierre. Around 30,000 people eventually sent to the guillotine. Nobles, peasants, workers, anyone who disobeys Robespierre so as threat to the revolution was being guillotined. Legacy of French Revolution. The legacy of French Revolution for the people of the world during 19th and 20th century was that women were given many rights. They could not be forced to marry against their will. Divorce was made legal. Schooling was made compulsory for them and they could train for the jobs. Second legacy towards the French Revolution was the idea of equality and democratic spread from France to the other countries of the Europe. It was the first movement to adopt the ideal of liberty, equality and fraternity. Another important legacy about the French Revolution was the Declaration of the Rights of Men and Citizens gave rights such as right to life, freedom of speech, equality before law. Another gift of French Revolution was feudalism was abolished and the idea of creating sovereign nation was introduced by the third state people. Let us see some main causes behind French Revolution. One of them was the social inequality in the France due to state system, in which the complete burden of paying taxes was on the shoulders of third state. Ideas presented by the enlightened philosopher was one of the reasons behind French Revolution. Another reason was the financial crisis, which was caused due to the participation of long-term war. Also, we can estimate the rise in the cost of bread was another reason behind the French Revolution. Now, let us discuss some important questions. Question 1 is, the burden of financial activities of the state during the old regime was borne by? Answer is third state. Second question is, who introduced Reign of Terror and where? Answer is, Robespierre introduced Reign of Terror in France. Next question is, the member of Jacobin Club belonged to mainly? Answer is, the less prosperous section of the society. Fourth question is, when was slavery finally abolished in French colonies? Answer, slavery was finally abolished in French colonies in 1848. Question number 5 is, one important law that came into effect soon after the storming of Bastille in 1789 was the abolition of censorship. Next, sixth question is, in 1804, Napoleon Bonaparte crowned himself as the Emperor of which country? It was France. Seventh question is, the political body representing the three states of pre-revolutionary France was the State Journal. Question 8 is, which theory was proposed by Montesquieu? Answer is, the theory of division of power. Now, the ninth question under very short answer type questions is, what did the French Revolution of 1789 stands for? Answer is, the French Revolution of 1789 stood for the idea of liberty, equality and fraternity. Last question for short question answer is, what did the fall of Bastille signify? Answer: the fall of Bastille signifies the end of aristocrat rule or of monarch. Moving towards short answer type of question, let us see question 11. Who was Robespierre? Why is his reign referred as reign of terror? This is very important. Answer would be, Robespierre was the leader of Jacobin Club, which led a successful revolt and came to power. Robespierre ruled France between 1793 to 1794. His rule was referred as reign of terror because he followed a policy of severe control and punishment. All those who were considered enemy by him or who did not agree with him or with his method were arrested, imprisoned, and then tried by all revelatory tribunals. If found guilty, they were executed. Next very important question towards the short answer type of question is, what is the significance of tennis court oath in French Revolution? The representatives of the Third Estate viewed themselves as a spokesman for the whole French nation. On 20th June 1789, they assembled in the hall of indoor tennis court in the ground of Versailles. They declared themselves as a national assembly and swore not to despair till that they have drafted the constitution for the France. That would limit the power of monarch. Also, the National Assembly completed the draft of the constitution in 1791, as a result of which France finally became republic in 1792. That's all in the revision session of this module. Remaining topic we will be going to cover in the upcoming module of the series. Till then, stay happy, stay safe.